It has been some time since my friend from Sports Illustrated has joined the program. I decided 1 month was enough of a cooling off period.
Yeah, I had an idea that we might be going this way off the
No,
top.
I
So
mean,
you
no,
can go
no,
ahead and give it to me.
it's
You can give
okay.
it to me.
It's just, it's funny. Here we are on December 30th. Albert Breer, what were you doing 1 month ago today? What were you on this actual day?
I was freezing my ass off. Right now, I think it would have been like before halftime, so maybe I still had some optimism. But
Front row,
you know,
sitting in the front
things
row.
did not go. Everything had gone perfect in the morning. My flight was on time.
Oh, look at that.
Because of my Black Friday obligations, I couldn't fly out till Saturday morning.
That's
I was
right.
a little worried about that, but everything worked out. Went to my buddy Reagan's house in the in Upper Arlington. We dropped our stuff there. Went right over to the tailgate. You know, I was shot out of a cannon at the tailgate. Had a great time there. Our seats were good, and then
front row.
then the game started.
Yeah, the front row. Hey, listen. Bottom line, though, Albert, is your team is playing right here in the beautiful Rose Bowl in Pasadena on Wednesday. You know, and you still have a lot to play for, and I want to get to your thoughts on that later on. Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'll just throw it out to you, Albert. The number one story coming off of Week 17 in your estimation is what? What do you give it?
Well, I mean, Saquon, I think the accomplishment is one of those things that's going to stand the test of time, and obviously getting to 2,000 yards in 16 games. I think there's a nuance to that. You know, like that he didn't need the extra game to do it, that, you know, he had over other guys who've done it, like Derrick Henry and Chris Johnson and Adrian Peterson. So that's one of them. You know, I think like really like, and it almost feels like ancient history now because it's like, what, 5 days ago? But
right.
The way the Chiefs looked, you know, it feels to me like they're rounding into shape. And I think it's some of the vision that they had for the team over the summer where now you're seeing what, you know, they thought of Hollywood Brown, and you're seeing what they hoped Xavier Worthy would be. And now they have the left tackle thing figured out, you know, with, you know, Joe Tooney, who's an all-pro guard, who's one of the all-time, you know, great professionals, like being able to make that move from the guard position. And Pacheco's healthy, and the defense was able to play the way they did against the Steelers without Chris Jones in there. So they bought Chris Jones the extra few days of rest, and now they'll buy him even more rest with the bye. It just like, I don't know how you felt watching on Christmas Day, Rich, but it's like it was kind of like, here they come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know. And the cheese was out there all season long, just like the year before and the year before that. The year before that, I took it and said, no, the Raiders are going to win the division. And then they won the Super Bowl, the Chiefs did. And then last year, it's like, you know, they're never going to be able to flip the switch. And then they did after Christmas. This one, I don't know if it's really a switch flip. It's just been a slow burn of excellence. You know, with occasional bursts of what one would think luck to get them through the moments where their excellence couldn't get them on the scoreboard. You know,
you say luck though, like this is what the Patriots were for 20 years, right? Like it was like, God, like every break's going their way, every call's going their way, but it's like they were so prepared for when those breaks did go their way that they nailed it like every time. You know, like that was the magic of the Patriots. It wasn't just getting breaks. It was like when the break came for them, they capitalized. And that's what the Chiefs are. It's like, I mean, if you're another team playing against Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City, it's like the same feeling you probably had playing against Tom Brady in New England 10 or 20 years ago, where it's like a couple things go wrong and, oh my God, the walls are closing on us now. You know, they sort of have that mental edge on everybody. And so, and now, you know, they get to do it at Arrowhead. And again, like I think like having the bye and having week 18 to manage health, you know, with a couple of guys, and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones who've been banged up, like to get them the extra rest now. It's just setting up where it's like, I mean, I thought about it like, you know, when they won on Christmas, it was like they're 1 win away from their 7th straight AFC title game. Like that's it. Like that's the position they put themselves in. And again, it's like this is another parallel to New England, but it's like they're going to be in that ring at the end when there are only 4 teams left on Championship Sunday, and they're going to win some of them, they're going to lose some of them, but you know, like they're always going to be in that ring, and it feels like that's going to be the case once again after everything they've been through this year.
And you know, an interesting conversation that I'm sure many of our colleagues will go deeper into as we are waiting and twiddling our thumbs for Week 18 is interesting, Albert, that the top seed in the AFC also, in a way, holds the keys to the 7th seed. And they take on a Broncos team that needs to beat them to get that 7th seed. And if the Chiefs beat the Broncos, that opens the door potentially for the Dolphins. And if the Dolphins can't pop that door through, Joe Burrow can. And if you're the Chiefs and you hold these keys, what do you do with those keys, Albert Breer?
Well, what do you do? I've thought about this so much. Here's the thing, though.
Yes.
I would say, as far as just your fear factor here, if you're Kansas City, and they shouldn't be scared of anybody, and they aren't, but your fear factor, I would say there are probably 2 teams in the AFC that really give you the most pause.
Can I guess them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ravens and the Bengals.
Bengals and the Bills, I think, right?
That's right. Okay, yeah, the Bills, sure. Bengals. Okay, the Bills, not the Ravens.
Okay. So let's say you have that opportunity to knock the Bengals out. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think if the Bengals get in, they play the Bills in the first round. So that's going to sort of take care of itself, right? Yep. I mean, that's just the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, absolutely. If I'm the Bengals, if I'm the Chiefs, I want to keep Joe Burrow out. I'm going to game this up. But
damn straight you will, man. You don't want Burrow to go into Buffalo and one and done there, and then he shows up feeling like that in your house. Get out of here with that noise, man.
So you would game this up then. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the other part about it, right? After watching what Kevin O'Connell's done with Sam Darnold, right? And what Liam Cohen and Dave Canales and Todd Bowles have done with Baker Mayfield. Are you ruling out that Andy Reid might roll out a different version of Carson Wentz there on Sunday?
Yeah, I know.
That might be a little more difficult than people think. Listen, after all these reclamation projects we've seen, would you rule out that oh my God, 2017 Carson Wentz is back?
Oh, you know what I mean? Albert, that's the beauty of weeks 17 and 18 in the NFL. Because I'm being slightly cheeky here, or completely cheeky, by even twitching in the direction that the Chiefs would, play something funky in week 18 to try and game the system to make sure Joe Burrow doesn't, make it, because it's more than just what the Chiefs have to do. It's not completely in their control. But the beauty of week 17 and 18 is if Carson Wentz is going to start, this is a major opportunity for him. And anybody else who starts in place of the Chiefs starters, it's a major opportunity for them too to look at their colleagues who have nothing to do but watch them, right? Kelsey will be standing there. Chris Jones will be standing there. Mahomes will be standing there. Whoever is the starter that's standing there, they are a captive audience, and here they can prove to those guys, I'm one of you. I can be just as good as you. I'm a Kansas City Chief. We're going to win this Super Bowl together. That is potent. That's the beautiful thing about this league.
Just last year, this is a little bit of a different example, but I can tell you, one of the things the Vikings really liked about Sam Darnold was how well he played in garbage time in that Ravens-Niners game on Christmas. When you remember the Ravens blew him out and Sam Darnold played the last 10 minutes. Well, if you go back and look at it, and I think you and I have talked about this, right? You saw a different version of Sam Darnold out there. And some of the Vikings people I know were like, whoa, what are we looking at here? Maybe there is something to work with there. So I think that part of it is really, really interesting. That for Carson Wentz, this is a great opportunity. And again, are we sure, are the Broncos so good that they'll be able to just roll out there and beat a Chiefs team that realistically in the NFL, it's not like college. You can't sit everybody. You know what I mean? You just don't have enough numbers on your roster. So this is tops going to be what? 7 or 8 guys sitting out, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's an interesting twist the way that the week 18 sets up here. And, certainly I look at the Bengals and I probably wouldn't want Joe Burrow coming into Arrowhead. I think I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah, right. Joe Burrow, man. I've got Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk Darnold because you know our business again. It's not enough for us to be hyping up Lions and Vikings and talking about how great the Viking season is now and what it can be right now for the next month and a half. We can't leave well enough alone We talked about it on this program last week. There was even real estate on game day morning on NFL Network Sunday morning that we spent on what do the Vikings do with Sam Darnold moving forward? What does it mean with J.J. McCarthy coming off of a knee injury? He's just 21 years old. What do you think the Vikings are thinking right now with this remarkable season in front of them?
So I think this is interesting because I do think they think very highly of him. Like one of the things, like in talking with Kevin O'Connell over the last couple of months about this, when I've had a chance to talk with him about it, that he's emphasized is like people need to stop looking at Sam Darnold as if the other shoe is about to drop, and people need to stop looking at him and letting their feelings on him from the Jets and Panthers weigh them down. And just recognize that this is a really good player who is talented enough to once go third overall, and maybe was a victim of his circumstances when he was younger. So they view him as a viable option going forward. Now the question is, how do you do that? And I think there's an example from 20 years ago that I think is probably the best one out there to compare to this one, which is like, you remember the Chargers, like, you broadcast that draft. That would have been one of your first drafts, I think, the Eli Manning draft. And so the Chargers wind up, they're not over the moon with Drew Brees. So they trade out of the first pick after Eli refuses to play for them and trade down, and they go and take Phillip Rivers there with the thought that Phillip Rivers is going to beat Drew Brees out. Well, Drew Brees does not lose the quarterback competition to Rivers that summer. Brees beats him out. And then Brees plays so well, wins 12 games, that they franchise him after the year and go into 2005 with Brees as the quarterback and Rivers as the backup. Now, obviously, that all took care of itself naturally when Drew got hurt at the end of that year. Both guys wound up having very bright futures from there forward, of course. But it's an example of one way you could handle it if you were the Vikings, where you look at it and you say, we owe it to the guys on this roster, right? Like if Harrison Smith's going to be back next year, if, but Justin Jefferson obviously will be there. Guys who've given so much to this place.
Hawkinson,
we owe it to
guy gave his knee, right? All that stuff. I hear what you're saying.
We owe it to these guys to give them the shot to be at our very best at the quarterback position. And that means bringing both guys back. And that means having both Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy back. And that's a good problem to have. Look, they thought the world of J.J. J.J. had a great offseason, did awesome in the spring and summer, looked great in that preseason game. I think it was against was it the Raiders? I think, like, whoever it was they played looked great in that first preseason game. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. The downside of that is like that they just haven't gotten to see like the development over the last 4 or 5 months. So as much as they like JJ, with a team that's ready to win right now, do you roll the dice and say like JJ is going to be fine and JJ is going to be ready to go? And we've done a great job the last 3 years managing that position under Kevin O'Connell. And we can go forward and feel confident with JJ McCarthy. And then you have the advantage of being able to build more aggressively because you're all of a sudden in that window with a quarterback on a rookie contract? Or do you say, again, we owe it to the Harrison Smiths, to the Justin Jeffersons, to the Aaron Jones, to these guys on our roster that are older and chasing a championship, to give ourselves the insurance of, hey, if JJ has a setback with his injury, or JJ has some bumps in his development, like we have this other piece here? It's a really interesting question to kind of dive into, but I think it's certainly a champagne problem. If you look at coming out of like a Kirk Cousins situation where the guy was your quarterback for the last 6 years and played as well as Kirk did, I don't know that you could come out of it much cleaner than the Vikings have come out of it, with two very viable answers for 2025.
Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sports Illustrated. 1 week from today, Albert, give me the number of coaching vacancies we will be talking about 1 week from this conversation.
6 or 7. I have to actually like go through them. But I would say, obviously,
well, we got 3 open now. So you're saying only
the Jets.
Okay.
The Jets, the Saints, the Bears. The Jags, I think, will be open.
You do.
The Cowboys are iffy. The Cowboys, I think here's what my belief on the Cowboys is: if McCarthy still had years on his contract, they would go forward with him. I think they're that impressed with the job that he's done. The problem is they have to draw up an entirely new contract to bring him back. And not only that, I don't know how many people know this, but virtually every assistant on his staff is up too. So they would basically have to redo contracts for everyone on his staff. So like, do they bring that all back? Do they commit to McCarthy for another 4 or 5 years? I think that one's still up in the air. I have a hard time making a call on that one. I think the Raiders, there's a good chance that one will be open. So that would put you right at 6. Who am I missing here? Rich, help me out.
Patriots, Albert.
I think the Patriots. So I don't think Robert. Oh, and the Giants would be the other one. So we'll go through those two.
Please.
The Patriots, to me, Robert Kraft does not want to fire Gerard Mayo. I don't think they want to be that franchise that's acting in that sort of scattershot way. That said, that was an ugly, ugly, ugly game on Saturday. There is a coach out there who will be the belle of the ball, Mike Vrabel, who is probably going to be available only this 1 year. And I think if you think you can get him, then you have to think about it. I do feel like Gerard is going to be judged on a few different things. Number one, are the players still playing hard for him? We'll see Sunday because that didn't look great on Saturday. Number two, has he shown that he can effectively manage his staff? That's, we'll see. And then 3, is there some direction for his program? So I think all of that will be assessed. I think they want to bring him back for a second year, maybe with some additions to his coaching staff to add some experience on both sides of the ball. And then the Giants, to me, are the real wild card here. I don't think that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's futures are inextricably tied. I think they'll be judged separately. I do think over the next week, John Mara will sit down with both guys to talk about the plan going forward and where they are going forward. Again, I look at them as one of these where it's okay. We feel like we've got a pretty good core of young players here to build around, but this thing fell apart at the end. Is there a way to dig it out? And, again, I think Mara's sort of like Kraft in this way. Like, he does not want to be the franchise that keeps turning things over. And they had 3 straight coaches that were 2 and done. And this is only 3 years for Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. So do you want to do that? They're another sneaky Vrabel team. I'd throw the Raiders in there. A lot of people think he's going to the Raiders, but the Giants, I think, would be a sneaky Vrabel team as well, just because his general manager, I think his pick for general manager is already in-house there, and Ryan Cowden, who he's with in Tennessee, and his defensive coordinator's on staff there in Shane Bowen. So I think Vrabel kind of hovers over a few of these different jobs out there, and the Giants, I think, certainly have some decisions to make. Again, I think both the Patriots and Giants are in that boat where the owners want to see it through. But I think both owners are going to have to, get the plan going forward and really believe in that plan to go forward with the guys who they have now.
What about the Colts, Albert? Is there any there? Because I mean, if Irsay and company are looking outside of the building, a very loud voice from inside the city of Indianapolis, and Pat McAfee is all in. I mean, he's putting a lot of laundry out there, and Pat's got a monster megaphone, as we know. Is there anything there?
Yeah, well, I would definitely take into account what Pat's saying. I think the stuff on Anthony Richardson is without question something that you have to pay attention to. I mean, look, they felt like they had to do a lot to get him on track, and they felt like they did. Is the progress there to the point where you wouldn't add another person to that room at the very least that could compete with him for the job in 2025, and you're sort of effectively taking him off a scholarship, right? And saying, now you got to go and win it. I think that's an open question. I would say the people I've talked to, it sounds more like general manager might be a question there rather than coach. I do think they really like Shane Steichen. I think Chris Ballard on balance has done a pretty good job there, but he's had 8 years and they've only been in the playoffs twice. So, do they look at it and say, okay, Shane Steichen, you can bring in your own guy. Do you bring in, maybe somebody like Ian Cunningham from Chicago, who you were with in Philadelphia, and we build it around the two of you? I think there are a lot of those sorts of discussions happening right now. Now, again, I would say Indianapolis and Miami are the two where I think the coaches are relatively safe, but the general managers might be, there might be some discussions about the future of the general manager in this place.
Wow. How about that? Albert Breer here. Okay, before I let you go, what do you think about the Rose Bowl? Feeling good? do you think?
Yeah, I'd say I'm in the same place I was before the Tennessee game, to be honest with you, which is I have no idea what to expect. I mean, God, like Chip's game plan, like the way Ryan had him locked in, it was fantastic. And I think that version of this team is what everybody's been waiting for. Who wears the same colors I do. It does bring some. Now, I think you'll find this interesting. So I don't know. I follow college closely, of course, but I don't cover it. So I don't know if this has been out there. But, one thing that I did hear that was sort of interesting was that Ryan's approach to the season was that they viewed it as like an NFL season, like to get through and to have guys playing at their best this time of year, you were going to have to manage it to some degree. And I heard that was actually why they were one of the slowest playing teams in college football. Like a Chip Kelly offense, believe it or not, snap to snap, was one of the slower playing teams, low play count, protecting the defense, all of that. They played that sort of game during the regular season. And I think in certain spots it cost them. And I think what a lot of us were waiting for was when do you flip the switch with that? When do we see like the hyperspeed Chip Kelly? When do you start to see them play with abandon? And now all of a sudden that flips.
Right.
So is that what they are now?
Oh,
that's my question going into Wednesday. So I think that's really interesting because I think that's sort of where college coaches are right now with the chance that you might play 16 or 17 games. Do you start to approach it like an NFL coach would during the regular season, knowing we don't need to go 12-0 to get to the playoff? It's, I think, an interesting discussion, and maybe some more on that comes out when the season ends. If it ends the way I hope it does.
I think you're in good shape, Albert. Obviously I saw what your team did against Tennessee, and the good news is for you is Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, I understand he's a Heisman Trophy finalist. He's not a fourth-year walk-on, and you've got trouble with those at quarterback. Jeez. And also, Oregon is not going to be missing their two best players either. So that's what you have trouble with. You have trouble with teams that start fourth-year walk-ons at quarterback and are missing their two best players.
I'll tell you what we have trouble with. We have trouble with kicking field goal. We have trouble with kicking field goal.
You had a lot of trouble. You had a lot of trouble against those circumstances, those really adverse circumstances for you. And by the way, you
just made me think of this.
What am I making you think of? 1 month ago today, Albert? Is that what I'm making you think of? Fourth straight win for Michigan against Ohio?
Bad memories. There's a lot of bad memories rushing back, but you just made me think of this, like how I believe you guys got this transfer kicker, right? Like who hit, what was it, a 52-yarder?
Yeah. By the way, my bad. He was active that day, and he was Michigan's best player all year long. So we had him. We had him.
After we spend $20 million or whatever it is, I think it's more than that in the transfer, like to build the team. It's the win that you guys got in the transfer portal at kicker over us that kept your stupid streak going.
Stupid streak, he says.
There you go.
Okay, very good. Well, in case you're wondering who Dominic Zavada is, he's an excellent kicker who made the kicks as opposed to somebody else, 1 month ago today. And he also can spell.
If we had a better kicker 2 years ago, we would have won the national title.
No, it's true. That's true. That's by the way.
Actually true.
That
is true.
Yeah. Stetson Bennett all figured out. All right, Albert. Very good.
Thanks for the therapy session, Rich.
No,
I
it's not
appreciate
therapy. I'm just trying to make you feel good going into the Rose Bowl.
Are you going to be here, Albert? I assume you're coming to the game, right?
I'm not. No, that's the problem with these four. Like honestly, my one last soapbox thing.
Oh boy,
that's why these games should be on campus, right? Like the quarterfinals should be on campus. That was so great, that first round, and I know the game.
No, you're right in this regard, Albert. You're right in this regard. Is that the bye week teams should get a home game now? Like Ohio State should be going to Oregon.
Right, I agree with that 100%.
Right, so you get the home game, and Oregon gets the neutral site game, and that's right. And I hear what you're saying too, but hey, at least you were able to win your last game in the horseshoe, and again, and I appreciate you mentioning Zavada. In case you're wondering, you can put it up on the screen. He's the one, the H. He's the one making the H right there.
That's the ultimate.
He's the H guy right there in that photograph.
You walked into that.
Well, it's okay.
I know I did. The minute I brought it up, I thought of that picture and how
it's interesting that he's the one also making that sort of good field goal sign.
Yeah,
right. So, yeah. And it's okay. His coach missed that moment because he was off to the side in his own little
shell-shocked
moment. What happened?
Shout out to Jack Sawyer for doing the right thing.
Hey, I'm just glad he got to win his final game at Ohio State. So,
He did.
Albert, thanks again, brother.
All right,
I
thanks,
figured
Rich.
a month was long enough.
I was wondering when you were going to call.
Chat again soon. Come on, I've been texting you damn near every day. This guy's as delusional as they come.
This is the first invitation, though. I did not turn down an
You should
invitation
all
before.
understand.
It's just to set the record straight.
Take care, Albert.
See you, Albert.
That's Albert for everybody from Prime Video. Sports Illustrated. There he goes.
Brock McMurray favorite. My mom loves Albert.
Who doesn't love Albert Breer? America loves Albert Breer. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.